They call it the Alcatraz of the Rockies. Home to terrorists, cartel bosses, and killers too dangerous for any other place. In here, sunlight is a rumor, and silence is a weapon. This is ADX Florence, the most secure Supermax prison in America. And today, you'll step inside to witness what life truly looks like for the men the US government has chosen to bury alive. Before we begin, hit subscribe, because what you're about to see, you won't find on mainstream news. Let's step behind the steel. In the barren plains of Florence, Colorado, 90 miles south of Denver, lies a place so fortified it said not even a bird could escape. Built in 1994, ADX Florence was the federal government's answer to chaos, after years of riots, murders, and escapes across U.S. prisons. It was designed to hold the worst of the worst, inmates whose violence, power, or notoriety made them too dangerous for anywhere else. This wasn't just a prison. It was a machine built for control. Every brick, corridor, and door was engineered to eliminate contact between inmates, between guards, between hope and reality. Here, prisoners live in solitude up to 23 hours a day, locked behind 4-inch thick steel-reinforced concrete. Their cells measure 7 by 12 feet, smaller than most walk-in closets. Inside, a concrete bed, a stainless steel sink, a toilet that shuts off if blocked, and a narrow slit window angled toward the sky, so you can see light but never the horizon. Even the air is controlled. Ventilation shafts carry filtered oxygen, while soundproof walls swallow voices before they can echo. ADX was designed with one purpose: to make escape impossible and communication nearly extinct. It's divided into units: the General Population Unit, the Special Security Unit, SSU, and the Control Unit, each progressively harsher, each meant to break the mind before the body ever gives up. By 2025, ADX Florence houses nearly 350 men, including some of the most infamous figures of modern history. Ramzi Yousef, the 1993 World Trade Center bomber. Terry Nichols, accomplice in the Oklahoma City bombing. Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, the Boston Marathon bomber. Richard Reed, the shoe bomber. El Chapo Guzman, the Mexican drug lord who once ruled an empire of blood. Larry Hoover, founder of the Gangster Disciples. And until his death, Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. These are not ordinary inmates. Each man has changed history, or destroyed it. And every day, they wake up to the same ritual of control that defines life inside America's most secure prison. But to understand what life is like in ADX, we need to see how the day begins, when the lights flicker on, and the countdown to another 24 hours of silence begins. 6 a.m. A mechanical buzz echoes through the concrete corridor. For the men of ADX Florence, it's not a wake-up call. It's a reminder that another day of isolation has begun. There's no alarm clock, no sunlight, no guard shouting rise and shine. The light inside the cell simply shifts from dim to bright, an artificial dawn that tells the body what time it should feel, even though time inside ADX barely exists. The inmates sleep on a slab of concrete molded into the wall, topped with a thin fireproof mattress. The pillow is government-issued foam, and the blanket feels like stiff canvas, rough enough to remind you it's not comfort but compliance. Inside each cell, everything is built for containment. No object can be disassembled into a weapon. No surface can hide contraband. Even the sink and toilet are one welded unit, polished steel connected directly to the wall. The toilet has an automatic shut-off system that disables it if an inmate tries to flood the cell. The mirror is not glass, it's polished metal. And the desk is part of the concrete wall, facing that narrow 4-inch wide window slit, just enough to see the blue of the sky but never the world beyond the fence. Breakfast arrives through a steel slot known among inmates as the chuck hole. It's the only contact they have with the outside world before noon. A hand slides a tray through, plastic, color-coded by unit. Oatmeal. Powdered eggs. A small carton of milk. No words are exchanged. The slot slams shut with a metallic clang that reverberates through the entire block. For many, breakfast is eaten in silence. For others, it's a ritual, a moment to pace, stretch, or whisper to themselves. Some talk to the walls. Some tap Morse code on the plumbing, an old inmate language that still thrives despite decades of attempts to erase it. Inmates are allowed out of their cell for 1 hour a day. Not all at once, one at a time. A guard team escorts each inmate, shackled at wrists and ankles, through a maze of locked doors until they reach what ADX calls the recreation pen. It's a concrete cage slightly larger than the cell, open to the sky but surrounded by 20-foot walls topped with razor wire. No grass. No shade. Just air and sky, like a glimpse of freedom that hurts more than it heals. Former Warden Robert Hood once called ADX a clean version of hell. And by 2025, that description still fits perfectly. Because what makes this place truly brutal isn't the violence, it's the monotony. Every minute looks like the one before it. Every sound, the same mechanical hum, the same echoing door, the same heartbeat that slowly loses rhythm over the years. To maintain order, inmates must follow strict schedules. 6 a.m., lights on. 6:30 a.m., breakfast through slot. 7 a.m. to 11 a.m., cell confinement. 11:30 a.m., lunch delivery. 1 p.m., recreation rotating basis. 4 p.m., dinner. 10 p.m., lights dim. It's a routine designed to erase individuality. A system where control replaces humanity, and silence becomes the loudest sound. Over the years, psychologists have described life at ADX as a form of sensory deprivation. Inmates see the same gray walls, the same food, the same light, every single day. Studies show that long-term isolation can cause hallucinations, panic attacks, paranoia, and memory loss. But inside Florence, those symptoms are not considered side effects, they're expected. To cope, inmates create structure where there is none. Some exercise obsessively, counting every push-up like a lifeline. Others write letters to no one, legal petitions, confessions, or prayers scratched on paper. And a few, the most mentally broken, begin to talk to people who aren't there. In 2025, a former inmate described it best in an anonymous letter smuggled to a journalist. In here, your mind becomes your worst enemy. You think of every mistake, every scream you ever heard, every time the light flickered and you thought it was a face. You learn to live without touch, without sound, without forgiveness. And yet, even in this place designed for absolute control, human nature fights back. Some inmates find ways to connect, not physically but psychologically. Through taps, codes, and even the echoes of pipes, they share fragments of themselves across walls meant to separate them forever. But among these men, a few names rise above the rest. Men whose reputations stretch far beyond the prison walls. Their routines are the same as everyone else's, but their stories reveal the depths of what life means when freedom is erased. Next we'll meet them, one by one. The steel doors of ADX Florence hold some of the most recognizable names in the world of crime and terrorism. Each man behind these walls once wielded power that stretched across cities, nations, even continents. But here, all of them are reduced to the same number, the same cell, and the same silence. Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, the Boston bomber. Cell 213 in the Special Security Unit belongs to a man whose face once filled every television screen in America. Dzhokhar Tsarnaev. At just 19, he helped carry out the 2013 Boston Marathon bombing that killed 3 people and injured over 260. Today he lives in total isolation, 23 hours a day alone, 1 hour in a cage under open sky. Since his arrival, Tsarnaev's life has been defined by the same rigid schedule as everyone else. He reads court documents, writes letters to a handful of approved contacts, and prays 5 times a day on a small mat. He has no access to group worship, no conversation with other inmates. Even his food, halal certified, is delivered through the same metal slot as the others. Inmates like Tsarnaev are monitored through infrared cameras 24 hours a day. Every word, movement, and even blink is logged. He's forbidden to speak with journalists. His communication is filtered, every letter read and sometimes never sent. In 2025 his appeals continue, but inside ADX, legal updates come slowly, one envelope at a time. The walls are his world now. Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, the drug lord. Just down the corridor sits the man who once controlled billions. El Chapo Guzman, leader of the Sinaloa cartel. His empire once reached across the Americas, a web of corruption, violence, and power. Now that empire has been reduced to 84 square feet of concrete. El Chapo's life inside ADX is a total reversal of what he once knew. Gone are the mansions, the gold-plated pistols, the tunnels, and especially the guards he could bribe. In Florence, no one can be bribed. He eats the same powdered eggs and processed meat as everyone else. His conversations, if any, occur through reinforced glass during rare attorney visits. U.S. Marshals placed him here because no one escapes ADX Florence. The facility's design was literally inspired by El Chapo's own history, the man who escaped 2 maximum security prisons in Mexico. In Florence, the walls are thicker, the cameras smarter, and the doors electronically timed to open and close in perfect sequence, eliminating human error. To keep his mind active, he reportedly studies English and writes notes about his life. A rare letter leaked to a journalist years ago contained just one line. "They've killed the sun." A phrase many say captures the feeling of living at ADX more than any court transcript ever could. Ramzi Yousef, the architect of terror. Ramzi Yousef, the man who masterminded the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, occupies another wing of the facility. He has spent more than 2 decades in solitary confinement, longer than most people's entire adult lives. Yousef's cell mirrors every other, but he spends hours reading religious texts and technical manuals. The FBI once described him as cold, brilliant, and detached. In ADX, that detachment has evolved into something else, a mind consumed by isolation. Former prison psychologists describe Yousef as one of the few inmates who seems unaffected by solitude, thriving on silence as if it amplifies his own sense of importance. But even he has moments of collapse. During a 2018 inspection, a psychologist noted that Yousef spoke to himself for prolonged periods, a sign that even the most disciplined minds begin to erode here. Larry Hoover, the king of Chicago. Then there's Larry Hoover, founder of the Gangster Disciples, one of the most powerful street gangs in America. Before ADX, Hoover ran his criminal organization from inside Illinois state prisons, issuing orders, collecting money, and dictating street wars from behind bars. His power terrified law enforcement. So, in 1997 he was moved to ADX Florence, to make sure no word he said ever reached the outside world again. By 2025, Hoover is in his 70s, a man who once ruled thousands now reduced to silence. He's not allowed physical contact with family. Visits happen through glass, phone calls are monitored. He reads, writes letters, and exercises alone. His followers on the outside call him a political prisoner. To the Bureau of Prisons he's a permanent security risk. Hoover's reality, like every man here, is monotony sharpened by memory. His followers on the outside still chant his name, but he hasn't heard their voices in decades. Inside ADX, your legacy becomes your ghost. Each of these men, Tsarnaev, El Chapo, Yousef, Hoover, lives under identical conditions. But the real difference lies in how each man's mind adapts to that reality. Some find religion. Some cling to discipline. Some slowly fall apart. For years, the Bureau of Prisons denied that ADX causes mental deterioration. But medical records and lawsuits tell another story. From hallucinations to self-mutilation, from suicide attempts to psychotic breaks, Florence has seen them all. And yet, for the staff who work here, the correctional officers, the nurses, the wardens, the job is to maintain order in a place where even sanity can't survive untouched. That's what we explore next. The men who work behind the walls of ADX Florence live by a different kind of discipline. One built on silence, vigilance, and fear. Unlike other prisons where officers constantly interact with inmates, guards at ADX are trained to minimize all contact. They are the unseen force, the invisible watchers behind glass, cameras, and reinforced doors. Each day begins long before sunrise. Officers pass through 7 layers of security just to start their shift. Biometric scanners, X-rays, ID checkpoints, and steel gates that lock in rhythmic sequence. Every weapon, radio, and restraint is catalogued. Nothing enters or leaves without record. Here, precision isn't just protocol, it's survival. In the control room, guards monitor over 1,400 live feeds from cameras across the facility. Every corridor, every recreation pen, every cell slot is under constant surveillance. Microphones pick up sound levels. Motion sensors track movement. Even the smallest anomaly, a pause too long, a sound too sharp, triggers an alert. One officer once said in an interview, "You don't work in ADX. You serve it." Because the prison itself seems alive, humming with an energy of containment and fear. A shift of silence. At 7 a.m., the first meal deliveries begin. Guards in pairs, never alone, wheel insulated carts through the corridors. Each tray is tagged, each route logged. Through the small slot in each steel door, meals are passed without eye contact or words. The silence is not accidental, it's procedure. Inmates at ADX are classified as high escape risk or high assault potential. One misplaced word, one emotional reaction could become a weakness. So the guards maintain a professional coldness, not cruelty but control. They speak in codes and hand signals. Every door requires dual authorization, 2 keys, 2 guards, 2 electronic inputs. It's a system built on redundancy, because here one mistake could cost lives. The human toll. But despite the mechanical precision, the job takes a psychological toll. Guards spend years working in an environment where no one speaks freely, and where even small sounds carry a tension that's hard to describe. Many officers say that Florence isn't just a prison for inmates, it's a test of endurance for staff too. A 2019 report by the Federal Bureau of Prisons Office of Inspector General revealed that turnover rates at ADX were among the highest in the system. Depression, burnout, and post-traumatic stress are common. Officers must balance empathy and suspicion, caring enough to prevent suicide, but detached enough to enforce isolation. One former guard described the experience to the New York Times. It's like working in a pressure chamber. You keep your feelings locked up tighter than the inmates. They see the toll isolation takes, inmates talking to themselves, smearing words on walls, or begging to hear another human voice. But the rules forbid comfort. If an inmate breaks down, the guard calls a psychologist, not a friend. Because even kindness can be manipulated inside a place built on power. Routine checks and constant control. Every day, officers conduct security rounds, random checks through each tier. They inspect cells, lights, vents, and even plumbing for tampering. They document temperature levels and water pressure, because inside ADX, consistency is security. Even a single broken fixture could be exploited. Guards also oversee inmate movement, which is rare and highly controlled. When an inmate leaves his cell, for recreation, a medical visit, or court call, the process is identical every time. Inmate kneels with hands behind his back. A trap door opens and his wrists are cuffed through the slot. Ankle shackles follow. 2 guards enter, one to hold, one to escort. Doors open and close in perfect timed intervals. No 2 doors open at once. There is no conversation. No deviation. From the control booth above, another officer watches every step, ready to hit lockdown at the slightest sign of danger. Guards and guilt. Some officers admit feeling a quiet guilt. They understand the need for safety, but they also see the humanity fading behind those concrete walls. They witness inmates age rapidly, voices slow, and eyes dull. Many say the hardest part isn't the danger, it's the silence. A former correctional lieutenant once told 60 Minutes, "You start to forget what normal feels like. You go home and your family asks how your day was, and you don't know how to answer." Still, for all the pressure, ADX guards carry an unspoken pride. They work in what is considered the most secure prison on earth. There have been no escapes, no riots, and no murders inside its walls since it opened in 1994. For them, that record means everything. But for every day of order they maintain, the question grows heavier. At what cost does perfect control come? Because while the guards keep watch, the inmates dream, and inside Florence, dreams are often the only rebellion left. ADX Florence is more than a fortress of concrete and steel. It's a reflection of how far a society will go in the name of control. Behind every steel door is a man stripped of sound, touch, and time itself. They eat alone, sleep alone, think alone. And slowly they become their own cell, the walls no longer just around them but inside them. For the officers, the psychologists, and the administration, ADX is an experiment that never ends. A balance between justice and cruelty, safety and sanity. It's a place where no one truly wins. Some call it necessary. Others call it inhuman. But everyone agrees, ADX Florence is unlike anywhere else on Earth. If you've made it this far, you now understand why they call it the Alcatraz of the Rockies. A place where America hides its most dangerous men. And where silence becomes the loudest punishment. If you believe stories like this deserve to be told, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and drop a comment below. Do you think ADX Florence is justice or torture? Because the truth is, some prisons don't just hold men, they erase them.